I'll say, I'm Michelle, and this is Tilly.
Welcome to Big Valley Living. She's not JJ, I am.
I'm Michelle, and this is Tilly.
So we've been talking about getting, matter of fact, this specific brand of freeze dryer for about 3 years. And so we've watched a whole lot of videos and all of that stuff on it. So when we did decide to make the purchase, I didn't feel intimidated or anything about it. But, you know, it's a lot of money to buy one of these. So
we had to have a really, really compelling reason, don't you think?
There's a good reason. So, yes, as she said, this is Tilly.
Yeah, you have to name your machine. So we named her after my great-grandmother, Matilda. And everybody in the family refers to her as Tilly. And she was a very hard-working woman who cared about her family. So seemed just right to name this one Tilly. Do we want to go? We can go into the other room maybe and talk about it. We didn't know where to park Tilly at this point because we didn't know about the noise level and all the particulars.
So this is just a spare room for us for right now until we figure out where this is all going to work out.
But she keeps the room really toasty at night. I love it.
I really want to go over a few things because when we did first get it, we did have a few issues, and we did work with Harvest Right support and all of that stuff. They are awesome. I will just say that for sure. But there are a few things that we went through that will probably be helpful for you, and a few things that I found along the way that I think would be really advantageous for everybody to see. So before we go any further, we'd like to thank Angela over at the Inquisitive Farmwife for inviting us to this collab. It's freeze-dried February 23, and thank you for inviting us.
And thanks to Renee at Pike Creek Farm for reaching out to Angela when I had shared that we were going to be buying our Harvest Right freeze dryer 2 weeks and 2 days ago is when we got her. And this baby has been going pretty much nonstop since we figured out our initial startup issues. But like JJ said, the Harvest Right staff, their troubleshooting staff,
awesome.
You guys, hands down, we couldn't have asked for a better outcome. And they follow through and everything. So shout out to Jerry, right?
Yep, Jerry and Norm.
Yep. And they were like following up with us on a weekend. So until they knew that Tilly was up and running, they were sending us emails, troubleshooting, calling us, having us try one thing and try another. And at the end of the day, they gave us the instructions. We got updated software, and everything's been going great guns ever since, don't you think?
That's right.
Yep. And we're very pleased with our purchase. We're glad we did it.
So just a couple of quick things. So we had vacuum issues. So when we had vacuum issues, we did quite a few things at their suggestion, and ultimately I think it came down to the software being updated. However, it got going and everything. Every load has gone without fail since we updated that software that they gave us.
Yeah.
So that really ends the issues. It's just when you start a batch or you have to bring it up to pressure and all of this stuff, it takes time. So you're not sitting there with them on the phone. You have to go through that whole process to get to where it airs again or it doesn't.
Hi, Leo.
So as you can see, yes, she is named, and it is Tilly. So a couple of things I did. I went over to Freeze Drying Supplies, Live Life Simple, retired at 40. That's his online store.
And he is actually a sponsor of this collaboration.
Correct.
So thanks, Brian, for everything that you're contributing to this collaboration as well.
So I did go to his store, and I did get a few things that I saw as important. So these bad boys right here, these are anti-siphon. This is the anti-siphon. because when, let's say that I had this valve was an issue, if it was, it would suck water back up in there, because that's one of the tests to find out if you have a leak, right? So these I got after that, and that's really the biggest thing that I can tell you. That's worth $9 right there.
And then what about that tape right there?
Well, that was all part of troubleshooting with Harvest Right.
Okay.
And that's the best $9 I think you'll ever spend. So as part of the package, you get the freeze dryer, of course. You also get the Premier pump, which this used to be the upgraded pump. Now they send them with it. That pump has been amazing. They also give you the first set of oil, an oil filter, and I believe 50 Mylar bags and 50 oxygen absorbers. We have, yeah, that's, and I also purchased, and the Mylar bag sealer, which you can see that over there.
Right here.
There.
Okay.
Okay. And I also went through freeze drying supplies and picked up his divider and parchment paper. So there are some things you just need that for.
Oh, we should show these. Let's show these.
So yeah, the Mylar bags.
These are
the oxygen
absorbers.
The oxygen absorbers and the Mylar bags.
We've only used 2 of these so far because we've actually been putting most of our product into quart jars because we've been really focused on making super green powders and then some other testing type things to just see how they do. I think it's worth noting that JJ learned really early on that we pre-freeze our food because it does get it going faster and it reduces the amount of time that it needs to be in the actual freeze drying unit. So we have these UV gloves around, and it just makes handling really cold, well, freezing trays much easier when you're transporting them from your deep freeze over to your machine. So keep some of these handy and dedicated. And also we have like a little bottle with a white vinegar and water solution for cleaning. And then we just make it a habit to have a clean rag and a towel, a lint-free towel, to be wiping things down between our freeze drying projects. So just a few tools that you want to make sure that you have handy and you're not out searching for them if you're just getting ready to put something in or take something out. It also just kind of helps you keep into some good habits of keeping your investment clean.
So thanks for going through that with us, everybody. So 4 Jars Lids is one of the sponsors of this collaboration, and I hadn't used them before this collaboration, so they actually gave us 50 of each size, and that's really appreciated. The lids. Yeah. As part of this collaboration, which is totally awesome and much appreciated because now I've been introduced to them. I probably won't can with anything else for real. Matter of fact, when we were setting this up, another contender's lid
continuously has given up on us. We have a seal, we have a little automatic sealer, which we may or may not show it during this video.
So for example, I sealed this one with a 4 Jars lid that did that same thing, and it hasn't come apart in like 5 days.
We've been resealing the common lids that we Americans are used to every single day since we've freeze-dried.
These here are 4 jars here.
Very disappointing.
There's egg and rainbow chard and all of this. Mm-hmm. These things are solid as a rock. So
thank you, 4 Jars, for a quality product.
Thank you very
honestly.
much.
It's fabulous, and we've heard nothing but good things about 4 Jars for well over a year now from a lot of our canning community on YouTube. And now we know, like, firsthand that that's no joke.
That's right. I'll be in touch.
So the other very exciting, we've already talked about.
Live Life Simple and Retired at 40 is Brian. That's his channel.
He's got so much information, and I just want to make sure that we give him a shout out because we've actually been following him since we considered getting a freeze dryer. So we want to thank him for his contributions. 4 jars. The hugest thing, this is the very first freeze-dried collaboration. Angela at the Inquisitive Farmwife, yay you for like pulling us all together. We've been watching all month and have learned so much about all the different things, like how to clean our machine the most effectively and economically. I'm trying to think of all the different things. Just how to move your machine around. Do you want to get a medium? Do you want to get a large? There are things to consider. We got a medium because we didn't know where we were going to keep our machine all the time. And anything above medium means you can't move your machine around. So we want the flexibility of being able to do that. So the biggest thing for this collaboration giveaway.
It's not that you can't move it around, it's that it requires a dedicated 20 amp circuit. So
which means
if you have
portable.
If you have multiples of those, you can move it around, do whatever, but not a whole lot of people have that luxury, us included.
No, we'd have to have an electrician come in and say that's where you're going to be forever. So the biggest part of this collaboration, the biggest giveaway is that if you watch all of the excellent videos that have been put out to this point and through February 28th. And the playlist can be found at the Inquisitive Farmwife's YouTube description page, and I think we can link ours down below. We're going to try our best, everybody. But if you can't find it at the bottom of ours, please go over to the Inquisitive Farmwife. The grand prize being given away live on March 3rd at 2 p.m. Central is a medium Harvest Right freeze dryer from Harvest Right. Now I know he's super excited to say something else. Go for it.
No, I'm done. I'm just kidding. That's our machine. That's the machine that we just showed you. It's exactly that machine.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much, Harvest Right, for putting that out there. That's really very generous.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that if you have already purchased one recently, or if you have one on layaway or something like that, Harvest Right will reimburse you the money of the cost of your machine.
Or send you another one.
Or give you another one. And I'm going to tell you right now, you guys, we are having so much fun. I almost went the second one. We are not in the contention for one because we are a collaborator. So please, go watch all these videos, because if you're considering one of these machines, you are absolutely going to learn so much, because some people have had them for a long time and they have great tips and tricks. So I think right now what we're going to go into is, after all of our troubleshooting, we started actively and successfully freeze drying
a lot of stuff.
Like starting basically like around the 15th of the month?
Yeah, somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, 15th? Okay.
We'll say that, sure.
So basically the dogs were running from us because we were freeze drying everything we could get our hands on. And I had to go and check something that's in the oven. Thank you. Okay, so before we get into everything that we have freeze dried to date, I'm going to talk to you guys about our why. So about 5 years ago, a little over 4 years ago.
2017.
November of 2017. In about November of 2017, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. So I went in and I had a surgery and went through some chemotherapy, and all was good. It was stage 2. A couple of years, about a year and a half later, it had moved to an ovary, had another surgery, went through chemotherapy again, had a couple of years of, just monitoring and stuff. found a spot near my spine, went through radiation and chemotherapy, and in all this time, I mean, we're totally leading an active life. So it's a little bit of an interruption, certainly something that one can deal with though. And then in January of this year, I went ahead and they found out that I had another little mass that had gone from tiny to not so tiny. They removed it, and after testing, it is a metastasis, which means just the spread of the same original colon cancer. It was not in a major organ, so that was very good news. But at that point, we're like, okay, it's time to use nutrition to fortify the chemotherapy regimen that I decided to embark on. So what we decided to do is let's go get the machine, let's go ahead and freeze dry superfoods. That's in addition to canning healthy food, which we've been doing for a few years, dehydrating food, which I've been much more active in the last few months, but we want to have as much nutrition added to food that we normally eat, as well as there's going to come a point here during the treatment where it's, eating is just not going to be very appealing and my taste buds are going to get a little wonky. So we're like, okay, let's just get this going on. The focus is actually putting in like super greens, right? Kale, spinach, what else here?
Right, kale,
chard.
spinach, chard, all of those things that pack a punch, spinach, all of those
anything with like a
things.
lot of beta carotene, anything with just a high nutrient value that I can sprinkle onto normal foods, right? So like we like a lot of things with tomato sauce, chili, spaghetti, that type of thing. So in fact, last night we had leftover spaghetti and I put in kale powder and rainbow chard powder. And it didn't change the flavor in any way at all, but we basically had
It actually made it rich. It made it a little more hearty to me.
Okay.
But it was really darn good.
But there was no flavor.
It's not it's not like, oh, all of a sudden I have a kale punch in the face or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't that way at all.
Which was kind of our hope, right? So really we kind of ate like a half a bundle of kale and rainbow chard last night in our meal by just adding some powder. So here's what we have done so far. We've done a tray of rainbow chard, a couple trays of kale, and we have found that one tray, when you take two bundles of Swiss chard, I'm going to give you an example because it kind of goes through all the greens. 2 bundles of rainbow chard mixed with just enough water in a high-speed blender to get it down into a paste. I wouldn't quite call it a liquid, but it becomes a paste. And we will actually have videos, and if I have an overlay, I'll show it to you.
Yeah, we'll have those coming.
But that becomes a pint. So this is a quart jar, and we got a pint out of it. At 1 tablespoon a time, it's gonna take us a little while to go through it. The colors are completely preserved in all of these greens. This is organic lacinato or dino kale. Oh my God. You could totally buy this, I get it, from one of the companies that sells it, but I do not think it's going to be this vibrant, and so that's why we chose to do it. This is regular kale. Again, I don't know if you guys can see it. It is just so incredibly full of nutrients, and you can see it. So then we also did red kale, and let's see, the rainbow chard.
Spinach.
Oh my God, the spinach is really good.
Yeah, definitely. And these powders and stuff, this isn't for long-term storage.
That's why they're in these jars.
So,
yeah, good point.
Anything that's in a jar, I'm not, it's not going to be in here for 3, 4, 25 years, right? So it's going to be used all of the time. So
these are like starts. So like the next time when we get down about halfway on the kale, for instance, we will do 4 trays of kale, and we'll probably put it all into one of these Mylar bags that come with the kit. Actually, okay, I'm gonna leave that alone for a second. Then we also did, we found blackberries on sale, so we did blackberries. These we're gonna have to work on, to be very honest. They're still, we put them through 2 cycles, like almost 40 hours, and they never really got dry. They kept putting their sugar out. So we need to work on that, and we're gonna be watching a lot of these collaborators to learn their tips and tricks. Blueberries, you can hear that, right? Blueberries did well. We did pierce every single one of them.
That's a tedious task right there.
We used fondue skewers, and we took 2 at a time, and we skewered every one. But they turned out well. Raspberries dried pretty well, but they're kind of like the blackberries. They kept releasing juice. I think what I'm gonna do is we'll either do smoothies or maybe powder this and use it as a sprinkle over oatmeal in the morning or something. I think that would be super good.
Maybe.
Okay, so here's our spinach. We have used our spinach on several occasions already. Oranges. We had some nice organic oranges from a neighbor. So I didn't separate the peel and the pith and everything else. I'm gonna be doing that with lemons though. I'm gonna take the outer peel off, remove all the pith, and I'll do the powder or the peels in one and powder those, and then turn the inside into something that we can use as well, maybe a lemon juice powder that I can just add to water. If I get sores in my mouth, which is a possibility as a side effect, I'm even gonna look into possibly getting my vitamin C via like a small gelatin capsule that bypasses my mouth and goes into my belly to give me the nutrients. So that'll be its own little kind of side shoot if you're interested in watching what I do to try and fortify my diet.
And this is actually orange powder.
Yeah.
From
orange slices.
And then yesterday we finished up freeze drying eggs, so I tried those this morning. I'm gonna have to work on the texture and how much water I need to put in these, because I tried the 1-to-1. I think it's gonna have to be like 1-to-2, because
they didn't look like
it didn't
real
necessarily
eggs.
work how I wanted it to. But we'll work on that, and that'll get awesome.
We've also learned that you need to weigh your wet trays and then weigh your dry trays, subtract that, and then figure out how much water weight you lost in the freeze drying process. So we'll be working on that. We're gonna have like a lot of freeze drying coming up in addition to a lot of our gardening and stuff, because we're gonna be doing organic gardening. So let's go over to can we go over to these guys?
Yeah. So
okay.
The freeze dried carrots. This is one tray. This is it fit perfectly. You got to kind of coax them in there to make it work, but
I plan on using freeze-dried carrots. I've always wanted to try this. Celery, carrots, onions. We actually have, this is the first thing we did. Freeze-dried white onions and multicolored bell pepper chunks that we already had in the freezer. So as soon as we had that machine going, then that's what we did. And we did use the Mylar bags for those. I'm not gonna cut them open and show you. But we basically have like a simple chicken soup broth here. And I'm thinking all I need to do is get a couple of legs going.
And we have broth in the pantry, so.
Yeah, we do have broth in the pantry.
We really have everything you
and
would
some
need.
in the freezer. So I'm gonna be making a video of a very, very simple broth that you can use. And I feel like we're going long. So we hope that you guys follow us on our journey, but before we really go too far, so I wanna show you, this lid is not, we are not using any lids for our jars of freeze-dried foods anymore, except for 4 jars. Because
these are awesome.
We resealed all of these within the last few days, and we checked them every day because we were nervous about what happened with the other brands, and we have not had a problem. So 4 jars,